Hello, you beautiful individuals. We are back with the Weakness of Kent Hovind documentary, part two of my reaction. Like I said, this part and the following parts will be a lot shorter. Well, not shorter, but me talking will be shorter. So, want to rush through a couple things. I have an amazing supporter slash viewer slash whatever that convinced me to start an Amazon wishlist to help make the channel better. That is linked on my channel and will be linked in the descriptions of the videos as following. But I just wanted to say I already had somebody that purchased something off of there, so massive thank you to you. You know who you are, you sexy, beautiful bastard. And yeah, I also got another patron, so they'll be listed at the end of the video, of course. But yeah, let's just want to keep it short, keep it nice and easy, and jump right into this again. Hopefully, we'll make it through a little more than 9 minutes and 41 seconds this time.
Own, or the ability to take what he has learned and form new conclusions based upon his education that his educators may not have. Kent's disgust for atheists and views against evolution are not original. He's just a copy of Tom Malone. Yet, Kent failed in one area of following in Tom Malone's footsteps. He was ordained on May 25, 1974 at Emmanuel Baptist Church. Kent returned to Pekin, Illinois, back to Bethel Baptist Church, where he eventually became pastor in 1976 after the previous pastor resigned for reasons unknown to me. Kent lasted just 2 years as pastor before resigning in 1978 and moved his family to Bourbonnais, Illinois, where he would teach at Faith Baptist Church. Currently, the church boasts their Faith Baptist Academy, but indicates that this academy did not begin until 1995. I'm sure he did teach in some capacity at this church, but whatever records of their students, faculty, or records of any kind do not seem to have been transferred into any digital format to be researched. The pastor at Faith Baptist Church, Bob Gray Sr., left the church for Longview Baptist Temple in Longview, Texas. Bob Gray Sr., who has refused to comment in any capacity in regards to Kent Hovind.
What a shock. As I said in the first part, he tried very hard to find people to comment or leave any kind of positive remark for Hovind. And it's not that they aren't out there; they are. I mean, I have people that comment on my videos that basically suck the dude off, but they just apparently, as far as like if it's people that Hovind personally know, like on his team, it seems that Hovind just does not want them talking to him because the one dude he found is somebody that is on Hovind's team. I don't remember his name, but he'll come up later. It yeah, it's they just, I mean, the dude got mad because after he found out who he was, he didn't want to remark anymore about anything. And I forgot to say when I was saying who somebody got me something off that wish list, it's actually a new microphone, so I hopefully won't sound as terrible anymore. But yeah, anyway, what he said very true. I mean, Hovind is just a carbon copy of Tom Malone and this dude and whoever else he's taken influence from. He doesn't come up with original thoughts. He doesn't learn anything. I mean, he even has that stupid thing he always says that 2 plus 2 equals 4 now, and it did back then, so why would I say anything different, basically? And it's because things change, Kent. Science, especially, changes a lot. But anyway.
Invited Kent in 1981 to join him in Longview, Texas. Kent agreed and moved his family there, where he claims to have taught math and science at the Longview Christian Academy. He remained there until 1986, where he then went to become assistant pastor and principal at Calvary Baptist Christian School until 1989, when he moved the family to Pensacola, Florida. That decision marked the beginning of Kent's second phase of his evangelist life, and the decisions that would destroy his future. While his wife, Jo, finished her degree in music, Kent began studying for his master's and doctorate degree from 1988 until 1991 from Patriot Bible University.
A completely nonsense place that is not accredited and is essentially just a diploma mill. So when he says that he began studying, I mean, that's him being very generous because, let's be honest, he didn't. I mean, even what he studied wasn't real. I mean, the dude is just so ridiculous. And I'm sure what he studied. Like, and I don't even know what his doctorate in quotations actually is for. I have no idea. I don't remember if he says it in this documentary or not. But if it was something to do with religion, I guess, then or theology, then sure. I guess that's somewhat fair. But at the end of the day, it's a diploma mill. Anyone can go get a doctorate from there relatively easily. It's pretty much more about money, I guess, than actually studying and learning.
This study was done via correspondence, and while that process is a legitimate means for receiving higher education, Patriot Bible University is an unaccredited university and is categorized as a diploma mill. A diploma mill is defined as a...
I mean, look at it. It's just a house. Like, I'm not, I don't want to like put down anyone's degree. I really don't, because I think it's amazing if you go to school and especially finish it and get your doctorate and master's, and that takes so much work. I mean, a lot of effort and time and dedication. And then you get people like this who just show up to this shack out in the middle of the desert. It didn't even show up, apparently. It was done by correspondence. And then get their doctorate and claim to be a doctor for the rest of their life. Which, yeah, back in the 80s, 90s, Hovind easily could have got away with that. But once the internet really became a big thing, it doesn't work anymore. So, that's why I always say, Mr. Definitely not a doctor, Kent Hovind.
A company or organization that has a low bar of requirements for study and a high bar for payment of said diploma.
There you go.
I have made multiple efforts to talk to the staff at Patriot Bible University, but nearly all have refused, all with the exception of a woman named Tony. I asked about the courses that Patriot Bible University offers and details of what my study would look like should I wish to enroll with their university, to which her answers mimicked that of the description on Creation Wiki. No professors. The students are expected to study and learn on their own. The materials that Patriot Bible provided on creationism were predominantly from the works of Dr. Henry Morris, who...
Yeah, because they're not going to pay professors to actually teach anybody. Why would they? That would just be less money in their pocket. Honestly, I think I'm going to set up, I'm going to set up an email and try to reach out to these people that he failed to reach, not failed to reach out to. I mean, he tried to reach out to him, but that didn't get back to him, and see if I can get them to get back to me. I feel like that'd make a decent little video, right? I think that'd be kind of interesting. Maybe I can even help Mitchell out here. I mean, I know he already made the documentary, but if you wanted to make a part 2 or something, might do that. Sounds interesting.
Who, unlike Kent, has a legitimate doctorate.
Sorry to pause again. If you think that's a good idea, give me some ideas for a good name for the email. You know what I'm saying? Like something that screams like, "Oh, don't worry, I'm also a young Earth lunatic who just wants to learn about my Lord and Savior Kent Hovind." Oh God, I hope I don't have to talk to him on the phone because I wouldn't be able to keep a straight face, I don't think.
But it's a doctorate in engineering. Henry Morris has no degrees of any kind in evolutionary biology, geology, paleontology, or anything outside of civil engineering and hydraulic engineering.
Now, to give credit where credit's due, he does have a proper doctorate apparently, and even though it is just in engineering, you have to keep in mind that still took effort and time and actual learning. So I will give him that. So good job for you, Morrison, whatever the heck your name is. But no, as he said, he is not in biology or geology or any kind of thing that would really pertain to evolution. But at the same time, like Bill Nye, for example, his degree or whatever he has, I believe, is in engineering. But I would still, listen to him when he talks about evolution and other stuff. Just because that's where his degree is doesn't mean he doesn't know about that other stuff. But obviously, this man doesn't, or does and just goes the opposite thinking with it, and lies and misrepresents it like a lot of other people do.
Despite Henry Morris having no higher education in these studies, it should come as no surprise that Kent Hovind, like with Tom Malone, produces no originality to the topic of evolution and instead regurgitates the arguments produced from someone who had no education in the topics he discussed.
There is no evidence at all for evolution in the fossil record.
This textbook says the fossil record provides some of the strongest evidence that species evolved over time. This is just plain silly.
Animals you've got to have buried.
No, it's not, Kent. You just don't understand how fossils work, and you think they all happened at one single time after a big flood and then magically got sorted by age, which, you know, whatever. I don't know how that works. And your only evidence for that is a stupid sand toy.
Animals and plants. They've got to be buried by sediments, and furthermore, buried quickly.
See, fossils don't form unless they're buried quickly.
So you date the fossil by the rocks and the rocks by the fossils. Both are based on evolution. And you begin to see, I hope.
No, they're not. What do you mean based on evolution? It's based... Radiometric dating is not based on evolution, you muppet. And what else do you want to date? See, they always complain because you date the rocks and then you date the fossils by dating the rocks and date the rocks by dating the... Well, what else is there? Like, do you comprehend how ridiculous that sounds? If you have a layer of rock with fossils in it, what else can you possibly date? And there is other things to date, to be honest. I mean, it's not just dating the rocks. Like, radiometric dating isn't just but it's not the point. Like, it's like when frickin' what's his face, the Australian dude, Ken Ham, always likes to go, oh, there wasn't a label on it. There's no label that said I'm this years old, and it's because that would be stupid. Why would there be? It's just that you have to use science to figure it out. That's what science does. But you're too dumb to understand that.
That we're involved in a vast circle of reasoning here.
If the layers are dated by the fossils and the fossils are dated by the layers, that is absolute stupidity.
It would take a long time to...
You know what else is stupidity? Is basing your entire worldview on a frickin' book that you think or claim that is God's word, but it was still written by humans, and humans who claim it was God's word. So you're going on a book that you believe is God's word because humans claimed it was God's word, even though there's no obviously evidence or proof of that. And then you think this flood happened that we have no evidence or proof of. And is that not also circular reasoning, but an even more ignorant form of it? You frickin'... Man, I'm not going to make it very far again. I keep stopping too much, I'm sorry.
To form that canyon by the river gradually eroding it down at the bottom. And as a matter of fact, it would take a long time for all the sediments with their layers there to be deposited too. You'd think, but no, as a matter of fact, all of those sedimentary layers, fine stratified sediments, were formed in essentially one day, and the canyon was eroded in essentially one day.
One of the biggest lies they teach the kids in school is that it took millions of years to make Grand Canyon. Grand Canyon formed in less than a week.
The dumbest thing I think I've ever heard Hovind say. And I've heard him say a lot of dumb things. But this takes the cake for me. Look, I've been to the Grand Canyon. Okay, I've not only been there, I went down the frickin' river. I climbed on some very sketchy places because back then there was a lot less safety crap. But that did not form in a week. And not only that, it is still forming. If it formed in a week, then you realize how deep it would be now? Because listen, so if it formed in a week, I went there about, I'd say, I don't know, 15 years ago, maybe closer to 20 years ago. So that means if I went back today, it should be so much deeper than it is now, than it was back then. But guess what? It's not. It's a little deep, a little tiny bit deeper, but it's not that much because it didn't form in a freaking week. And his only evidence, in quotations, is the fact that if you move some dirt around and let a lake or whatever pour out, it'll take away sand and dirt very quickly, which of course it will. But this isn't sand and dirt. It's rock. I mean, yes, there is sand and dirt here, of course, but rock, Kent, and rock, the other guy that I already forget your name because it's not worth remembering.
And other versions might say sea monsters or something else, but the word in the Hebrew is tanin, which is in other parts of the Old Testament translated dragons. God created the great dragons of the world.
Okay, Roger from Mud Fossil University, let's chill out with the dragon crap.
What's that? That's a dinosaur. That's what they used to be called.
You say, Brother Hovind, is this a fire-breathing dragon? Yep, sure is. The Bible talks about fire-breathing dragons.
They died out fairly recently, and maybe they haven't died out completely. We still get reports every once in a while.
And there might be a few still alive.
Oh my god, I forgot how stupid that was. Do you understand? Okay, listen. We live in a world now where at least over half the people, I'd say, have a device in their pocket with a camera slash video recorder that is connected to the internet essentially at all times. So you're telling me that there's potentially still fire breathing dragons, and there's no footage of it? This isn't a big deal? Nobody knows about this? Because that seems unlikely to me. And also, if that was the case back then, now I understand there are certain paintings and cave carvings and stuff that you could interpret as potential dragon slash dinosaur things. I get that. I do. But don't you think if dinosaurs were roaming the earth and apparently had wings and were breathing fire to become a dragon for whatever reason, don't you think it would be a lot more places? Like, it would be a much bigger deal. There would be proper written record of it, not just some stories in the Bible. I mean, and I know there's more than that. I understand that. Okay, I get it. My point is, and see, I'm not even saying there never was a dragon-like creature. I am very, very, very skeptical. But it's possible, I suppose. I guess. I don't know how it, shot fire out of its mouth. That seems unlikely. But the point is, if it was the thing, this would be a huge deal. We would have way more evidence of it. Hold on, I gotta see how far I am into this. Oh my god, I'm almost already 20 minutes recorded. Dear Lord, why do I talk so much? I just want to make it through this thing. This is gonna take way more than 4 or 5 parts. This is gonna take a long time. And don't worry, I will be posting other videos too. It won't just be this. And I'm not gonna, post one every day. I might skip some days here and there. But I will make it through this, I assure you. I will. And I have to now, because McKenna Mitchell himself commented on my video a couple times. That felt good. So now I'm obligated to. I'm kidding. I would have done it regardless, but it was pretty cool, honestly. I like that. So thank you, McKenna Mitchell. Thanks again for making this documentary, as painful as that had to be for you.
The vast majority of his higher education is worthless, and his arguments are from someone who merely studied engineering. Kent Hovind is not educated. He is simply good at memorizing arguments and regurgitating them, which provides the explanation behind why Kent repeats the same responses he gives to questions in regards to evolution, regardless of how different the questions may be.
And honestly, I say he's not even good at memorizing arguments. Like, he's good at remembering ones that were taught to him, decades ago, but he doesn't really remember any new ones. Maybe he does, but I haven't heard any new ones lately. That's for sure.
Because all he knows is what Henry Morris and Tom Malone told him. This is something that Aaron Raw noted in his review of Kent Hovind's series Lies in the Textbooks.
I really want to talk to Aaron Raw. I know that's a big thing, because obviously he's a busy man, I'm sure, but man, I really like Aaron Raw. I didn't even know that much about him until I started actually making videos, and some people kept pointing him out more. I had heard of him before, but just one of those things. I just never watched a lot of his stuff, not for any particular reason. It's just you kind of find people that you watch and you somewhat stick to them a little bit. But now that I've been watching him more, I really like him. I would like to react to one of his videos. Maybe I'll do that next after this. Who knows?
Saying,
it's not just that the preacher doesn't have an accredited degree and obviously never studied any of the things he speaks about so authoritatively. It's worse than that. He apparently doesn't know what any of the words he uses actually mean, according to the scientists who define them. That's why his criticisms don't make sense.
See, and right there, that's why I like Aaron Raw. So if you looked at Aaron Raw without hearing him speak, your perception of him would be so much different than when he actually opens his mouth and talks. Because I hope that doesn't sound like mean or an insult, because I'm not meaning it to. It's just how intelligent he speaks and sounds does not match his image, and I love that. Like that, it's that kind of like, how do I put it in a? It's kind of like a sleeper car. You know what I'm saying? Like a car that it looks like a normal car, It maybe even looks like a piece of junk, like, some rusty bucket of bolts. But then they step on the gas and they frickin' just leave you in the dust and pull on you because they have, whatever super VTEC engine. I mean, that I shouldn't go for a Honda version there, but it's usually the Honda Civics. But no, my point is that I love that his image doesn't match his intellect. If that's not, man, I don't mean to. I really hope you understand what I'm saying, and I'm not like coming off as insulting because I'm really not trying to. I love Aaron Raw and his image and obviously his words. I mean, especially when he dresses up and all the get up, and he look like he has some amazing outfits. I'm just gonna shut up now, so I don't actually insult the man, because I really don't want to. I really, really respect and like him.
He shows no hint that he even knows what he's saying.
It's one thing for your lessons to be inspired by the people who taught you. In fact, that's inevitable. But it's another to just repeat it. That's not education. If I were to simply read to you the words from an expert on how a nuclear power plant works, the information I regurgitate could be correct, but that doesn't make me an expert on nuclear power plants, because I have no training or education in that field. I myself would not be the reliable source. Now, it's important to point out that Kent's behavior as a parrot doesn't by default mean he is wrong. I, of course, believe he is, but the point I am specifically...
No, it's okay, McKinnon. I get why you say it, because that's kind of the point of the documentary. He is wrong. Very, very, very wrong.
Making here, as I mentioned at the beginning of the documentary, isn't to argue against his creationist claims. The point is to review Kent Hovind and the fact that he is not a reliable source of information on the topic of evolution, because all he does is regurgitate the works of another person, and said person was only educated in engineering. Everything that is Kent Hovind is bootleg plagiarism. The title of the documentary is The Weakness of Kent Hovind, and one of Kent's weaknesses is simply that Kent is an unextraordinary person. More correctly, his weakness isn't just that he is unextraordinary, but that he has a problem with that. It's not enough that he is just a...
See, and I'm not saying I can put this in a better way than he did, but I feel like, that's why I titled it The Weakness of Kent Hovind is himself, because his weakness, as he said, is not only that he's unextraordinary, it's that Kent's entire being, his entire purpose of existence, is to be extraordinary. And what he views as extraordinary is those people that he parrots a lot. Tom Malone and the other guy that I already forget his name. So that's what he views as extraordinary, and what he strives to be extraordinary, because he wants to rise above, and he truly believes that he is better than people like me and you, even his followers, obviously. But he's not. He's just a pathetic small man. That's all he is.
Person like everyone else. He desires to be above others. Pastor Tom Malone and Henry Morris are men that I feel confident enough to assume that Kent viewed as extraordinary. He witnessed people respecting them. He witnessed people listening to them, seeking their advice. He wanted to be them. He wanted authority.
Every military of every country in the world knows you have to have a chain of command, and you have to obey the officer over you. What first thing God said to Adam and Eve when they sinned in the garden in Genesis chapter 3, he said, Adam, you got to work for a living now, bud. Eve, he's the boss.
Kent is just a cheap imitation of them. And deep down, I believe he knows it.
He does, I hope. Even if he doesn't, who cares? His remark about the military thing. You know what else? Maybe not every military knows, but I would say a good majority of them do. Is that brotherhood. Is the fact that no one person can do it alone. You need that united front. And that's where Hovind falls short. He might like his team as long as they serve him and serve his purpose. But the moment they don't, he cuts them off or abuses them or does God knows what else to them. And I don't know. Hovind disgusts me even more than I ever thought possible.
He knows he is unextraordinary. He knows that he's just a parrot, and he knows he would be nothing without imitating them. The sad part is that may not have been true. Had Kent simply developed himself as an individual, seeking only to be himself, perhaps his future would not have been so bleak.
Well, this is it, son. This is it. 9 years in the making. You got a lot of people out there that have been praying for you. Thousands and thousands of testimonies coming in. People that have seen your tapes. And you're ready to get back out there, I know.
We are headed home now. We're in Mississippi. This Saturday, July 11th, will be the 9th anniversary of when the indictment was issued against me. It's been a long, interesting...
And you guys are all invited to the party this Saturday.
Amen.
At 29 Cummings Road. So
my BOP, they give you this for free to go home.
you gotta be. I think they spent a good $3 on that
and
one.
these Chinese tennis shoes, yeah, they're good, $1.50. So I'm all set.
Well, we got some different clothes for you in the car.
Oh, you do?
We got some new clothes for you.
Oh man. Okay.
Oh man. Well, thank you guys for all your prayers. Anything else you want to say to them?
Well, it has been an amazing journey. God has been really good. I can see why so much of the Bible is written from prison. It just gives you a totally new perspective on 1,000 things, you know. And it's coming to the world.
Yeah, too bad it didn't give you a new perspective on how ridiculous and pathetic you are.
Happening now in many countries, and it's Christians in America are so not ready for what's about to hit.
Kent Hovind may have been influenced heavily by Pastor Tom Malone and Henry Morris, but it's tough to say where Malone and Morris end and where Kent begins. I suppose if we were to look into any specific area behind Kent to find any originality, it would be his entanglements with the law. While I want to address Kent's various criminal activities throughout his life, here I want to address a specific time in Kent's life, his battle with the IRS. On March 1st, 1996, Hovind filed a Chapter 13 bankruptcy petition to avoid paying federal income taxes, claiming he was not a citizen of the United States and that he did not earn income, had no expenses, and no property. He claimed that as a minister, everything he owned belonged to God and he was not subject to paying taxes for doing God's work. On June 5th, 1996, the court dismissed Hovind's bankruptcy case, finding he had lied about his possessions and income. The court upheld the IRS's determination that his claim was filed in bad faith for the sole purpose of avoiding payment of federal income taxes, and called Hovind's arguments patently absurd.
And see, that's what bugs me so much about him. It's like, not only do you lie and misrepresent the science, you lie and use religion to lie and misrepresent everything now, too. It's just that whole point of he doesn't have to pay taxes because everything he owns belongs to God. It's like he's literally, you're only doing that to avoid paying taxes because you're a cheap bastard. I mean, I don't know if he said it already or if he says it later on, I don't remember now, but when he set up the stupid Dinosaur Adventureland the first time, he got in trouble because he didn't want to pay for like a $50 permit or something. And now his second one that he has, it's not, I don't know. We'll find out more about that. Let's just keep going.
It also said that the IRS had no record of the debtor ever having filed an income tax return. You need to remember that. In 2001, Hovind would create Dinosaur Adventureland, which is likely what Kent would regard as his magnum opus in terms of the things that he has created. It was based in Pensacola, Florida, with the tagline reading, "Where dinosaurs and the Bible meet." In September of 2002, merely 1 year into Dinosaur Adventureland's creation, Hovind was charged with failure to observe county zoning regulations for Dinosaur Adventureland, which was a misdemeanor. However, this was not Kent's only issue with the local law, because in April of 2006, the Dinosaur Adventureland buildings were closed by county officials, and the Florida Circuit Court found the owners in contempt, ordering fines of $500 for each day the buildings were used. Hovind argued that he did not need a permit due to the nature of the building, calling it a church and a part of his ministry. Yet, Hovind's organization had neither business licenses nor tax-exempt status, nor was it considered a church by the people who worked there. After a 5-year court battle over the $50 building permit, on June 5, 2006, Hovind pled nolo contendere as charged to 3 counts: constructing a building without a permit, refusing to sign a citation, and violating the county building code. Hovind paid fines totaling $675. If these few petty legal infractions were all that had occurred, Kent's overinflated ego could potentially be ignored as little more than an annoying character flaw. Unfortunately, these property matters would soon be the least of Kent's concerns. Unbeknownst to Kent, in the mid-90s, Senior Vice President Rebecca Horton of the Pensacola Christian College, who had a conversation with Kent Hovind, reported Kent to the IRS for his comments against taxes. An individual who is closer to Kent than most also had something to note about Kent Hovind's tax views that further establishes Kent's long-standing conflict with the IRS. That person was Chad Hovind, Kent's nephew. Chad explains, "I have rarely spoken to my Uncle Kent over the years, and the few times we talked were at family gatherings or vacations where he was trying to convince family members that Social Security was optional, paying income tax was unconstitutional, and his 20-year battle with the IRS was going well. In our few talks, I told him that he was wrong on his views on taxes and was not respecting the rule of law. I told him his conspiracy talks of black helicopters and government conspiracies were not helping his credibility." As discussed, Kent Hovind is merely an imitator, being skilled in stealing the thoughts of others but producing very little of his own.
Nothing's original with me.
Though I am unsure of exactly where Kent adopted his views against taxation, I can at the very least point to one man who made a significant influence on him, if not ingrained the ideas into Kent: Glenn Stoll. Glenn Stoll founded Remedies at Law, serving as the director and general counsel to provide legal advice to people like Kent Hovind. As it would turn out, Glenn Stoll has no legal credentials whatsoever and is not a member of or licensed with any state or federal bar. Glenn Stoll helps churches, both legitimate and illegitimate, to become a corporation sole, which is usually a church that has one single officer and can be used to allow a church to hold title to property. But in these cases, the corporation sole is essentially designed to hide income and/or assets and designed to evade income taxes. Glenn teaches that as a corporation sole, they don't have to file or pay taxes, citing a mandatory exemption to the IRC 508C1A for churches, even going so far as to claim that they are not even required to notify the IRS of their existence, nor are they authorized to collect or pay taxes to the government. However, like real churches, Glenn Stoll advises his customers that all donations to their church is tax deductible. Next, Glenn Stoll helps people set up ministerial trusts in conjunction with their corporation sole. Because the two are connected, Glenn Stoll teaches his clients that they are now exempt from IRS laws, helping them to stop paying income and employment taxes. Each different missionary activity needs to have a separate ministerial trust set up, for which Glenn Stoll charges $4,000 to $4,500 for the first trust and $2,000 for each subsequent trust, and each of which is to be managed by the corporation sole. Customers of these former businesses, which are now called churches, are asked to make checks out to the ministerial trust rather than to the individual so they don't have to report it as income. Part of this scheme involves concealing property, income, and profits. By placing both business and personal property in the name of the ministerial trust rather than the individual's name, Glenn Stoll tells his clients that the IRS cannot touch their assets. Unfortunately, that is simply not true, as Kent Hovind has since found out but still refuses to acknowledge. Glenn encourages people to transfer all of their assets, including personal property and furniture and cash, into these ministerial accounts, thereby allowing them to claim that they themselves own nothing, but that they live in a parsonage, their former personal home, and use the church's furniture, their former personal furniture, and equipment and vehicles, their former personal vehicles. Another aspect of Glenn Stoll's scheme is to call all employees independent contractors and telling clients that they now no longer have to file W-2s or 1099s. Lastly, Glenn Stoll requires that his customers contact him if they need to make a withdrawal of $10,000 or more in cash.
Weird, and not sketchy at all. I mean, for those who don't know, that's kind of what Hovind was busted for, essentially, is making essentially too many withdrawals and deposits under 10 grand, because if you do it under 10 grand, it doesn't get reported to the IRS.
Which sets up a major domino effect in Kent's future. It should come as no surprise to find out that recently, in 2021, Glenn pled guilty to conspiracy to defraud the United States and evading the payment of federal income taxes. In 2003, during a phone interview with the New York Times, Kent Hovind openly stated, "I haven't filed a tax return in 30 years," which parallels the IRS's findings in their investigation into Kent Hovind's bankruptcy filing that I previously mentioned.
But yet he's completely innocent, has never done anything wrong. I mean, he literally admits to what he does, but yet his followers just either don't care or are too stupid to listen.
Kent's admission to avoiding filing taxes, the IRS's investigation into his bankruptcy case, his nephew explaining Kent's views against taxation, and after being reported to the IRS by Rebecca Horton, what came next should be no surprise.
Let's save what came next for next time. This video is already getting long enough. Even though honestly I might have to start making these a little longer. I really try to limit my videos. I don't like to go above a half hour usually, and I'm already way above that. But anyway, yeah, so this was part 2. Let's just cut it here and keep it simple. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and until next time.